person who's so self-centered can never take advice from another person. I want to talk about something very important, and that's being self-centered, or looking at yourself as more important than others. I think, it's by now we've all heard the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated, or put others before yourself, right? That's a normal thing. That's a normal word. It's a normal saying, anything like that, right? But we never take to heart what that means. When I was a kid, I was, or not necessarily a kid, but when I was younger, I used to always think, okay, maybe I'm in a line to eat some food, eat a hamburger, whatever. And there's people in front of me. Like, that's the way I used to think about it, right? And I used to think, okay, being self-centered is pretty much putting yourself first in line, or cutting in line, or saying, I'm better, or I need it more, or anything like that, right? When you clearly don't need it more, right? You clearly don't. And you self-center yourself. You put yourself in front of others. That's the way that I looked at it. And the way we should do with that kind of example, or just like the way that I look at it, is put yourself in the back. Like when you feel like nobody's going to volunteer, hey, I'll go in the back. Hey, I'll be last in line. Be last in line. That's something that people respect. And that's something that people love. When it comes to being self-centered, you tend to never take advice from other people. That's exactly what I just started the video with, right? You never take advice from other people. And the reason why is because when you're self-centered, you think you're always right. You think you're always right. You never consider other people's advice. Right, I'll give football as an example. Tackle football, American football, however you want to say it, right? I play this, and I like training, and I like, becoming better and stuff like that. And I want to put up an example. So, let's say I'm the QB, right? And I'm throwing to somebody. I'm throwing to the receiver, right? And they're just running out there, right? So, I'm not really that good at throwing, right? I can never really throw a good throw, to be honest. I'll be honest with you. It's pretty bad. But it takes me like 10 failures to get one right. It takes me like 10 tries to get that perfect throw. And I'll tell you what, when I get that perfect throw, I feel pretty proud of myself. Right? And anybody else, even the receiver, even the person who's catching the ball, if they catch that ball after 10 failures, after 10 bad throws, and they get that perfect throw from me, right? You think they would be like, good throw. That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I want. Right? But it wasn't. It wasn't that. That's being self-centered, is when you don't celebrate other people's success after so many failures. If I fail 10 times and you're criticizing me, you're saying horrible job, horrible, you suck, you're buns, whatever, you can make it up, right? And you're just criticizing me over and over and over and over and over again. And I just feel so down on myself. But then you celebrate me when I actually succeed for the first time after 10 failures. That makes me feel so much better. It makes me feel like you were saying all those bad things to make me succeed, to help me succeed, to help me be able to get somewhere better and just overall feel better about the success that I got. Right? But there's a different side of that. There's the side where you fail 10 times and the person that keeps on calling you out every single time, keep on, saying bad things about you every single time, and they don't say anything when you succeed, anything when you do good. That right there is being self-centered. And I just want to make a note, by the way, it's the person throwing that's not self-centered. Sorry, wait, what? It's the person that is catching the ball that would be self-centered in this case, right? I just want to say that. I want to say that you need to think of others, right? You can criticize them at their failures, but when they succeed, you gotta like celebrate that. Because if you just criticize them every time they fail, but then say nothing when they succeed, all that makes it look like is you're self-centered and you're a horrible person. And all that you can think about is criticizing others and putting yourself above them. And that's not how good things work. That's not how people should work. That's literally the most human thing you can do, which is not a good thing. Right? So you better act like you care about others over yourself. You know, the football team I'm part of, their little slogan or like one of the quotes or whatever is God, team, and then me. That's such an amazing quote, you know, because it's the same thing as like love your family, love your friends, and then love yourself. You know, always put yourself below everybody else, because that's showing humility and that's showing you're humble, right? And those are the two things that are complete opposites of self-centered. And being self-centered is pretty much just being, you know, such a being proud and just caring about yourself. I don't know what the opposite of whichever one of those two I said, but you know, that's just like the opposites of, you know, or the same thing as self-centered is that. And it's so crazy to me that some people out there live lives where they're self-centered. Maybe it's because they feel like they have to do that to be a part of this one group. They feel like they have to do that to feel better about themselves. It's sad and it's crazy, and I feel like people need to know, and you know, especially you, whoever you are watching this video, think about that. Like, when have you been self-centered? When have you thought of yourself above others before? And change that part of you. You know, ask for an apology for that. You know, because it can affect people. But, you know, just ask for an apology and just look back at that. I want to go back to that quote that I said, the people who are so self-centered can never take advice from other people, right? You know, when you're self-centered, you tend to think any time that, you know, somebody tries to give you advice of their own, you tend to think, no, I'm right. You know, you don't give them a chance to speak because you think automatically, I'm right. And you're not going to listen to a word they say. Right, but there's a difference between taking advice and hearing advice. Hearing advice is pretty much where you just hear their side of the story. You hear their opinion. Let's say throwing form. Hey, your throwing form's a little bit off. Could I help you with that? Could I maybe show you a little thing? Yeah, sure. That's what a non-self-centered person would do. But if you're self-centered, you're going to just be automatically like, no, I don't want to hear your advice. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I stick to my own way. I stick to what I want. That's not what we should do. We should not be doing that. Instead, we need to hear the advice and then decide to take it, whether or not to take it. You don't have to take the advice. Taking advice is taking it and inputting it into your life, into your everyday life, into everyday skills. Right, and not every single bit of advice is good advice. There's bad advice, there's good advice, there's mid advice, I don't know. But hear it, decide whether or not it aligns with what you want and with what you think, and take it. You could even just try it. You don't have to live by it, but you could try it. You could try that advice. That's what not being self-centered is. Hearing advice and deciding whether or not to take it. That's the definition of self-centered, or of not being self-centered. Being self-centered is pretty much ignoring any advice from anyone because you think you're right every single time. I hope this was a good video. Obviously, this is the first one I've ever made in my life, and I probably stuttered a lot, but I hope I got the message across. I'll just say it one more time. Somebody who's so self-centered can never take advice from another person. So, be able to take advice. Be able to hear advice. But don't be self-centered. And think of others above yourself. Have a great day. God bless.